Welcome back. Take a seat, settle in. Happy Monday. Yeah, I know. How was everybody's weekend? Good? Yeah? Get up to anything fun? Yeah? Okay, nothing too crazy. Show of hands. How many people did their assigned reading? Don't lie. You're not going to be in trouble. There's no pop quiz today. No, like, maybe half? Fair enough. It's kind of generous. I do not blame you. It was a very nice weekend. I got out to do some sailing. My partners and I have been working on throwing together a handmade sailboat designed after early 20th century designs, talking like 1920s, 19 teens, right after the war to end all wars, the golden age, before the syntaxis showed up, that really halcyon day kind of vibe. It's beautiful. It's a pain in the ass, but just gorgeous. I'm more than happy to show off pictures after class. I'm not saying you'll get extra credit, but there's no harm in brown nosing. All right. So the assigned reading we can go over pretty quickly. The assigned reading for our class, once again, lessons from the modern Dark Age, 2154 to 2171. Our selected reading was on the Kronos-Doktrin. The Kronos-Doktrin, if you'll pardon my German. The Kronos-Doktrin being a unofficial policy in the Reich, in the Axis, not official on the books policy, but one used to describe a demonstrated and observed pattern of behavior by the Axis and the Reich of the undermining and sabotaging of their own colonial or nation-building projects. The name, the Kronos-Doktrin, isn't just ominously Greek. It is ominously Greek with a meaning. How many classics majors do we have in here today? 2. Honestly, 2 more than I expected. Good to have you here. Kronos, from Hesiod's Theogony, was a Titan from Greek mythology, classical Greek mythology. Titan, a god, essentially. Not, but, whatever. The distinction's not important right now. Kronos became the king of the Titans by overthrowing his own father, killing his father, usurping his throne, and in classical Greek, dramatic, tragic fashion, was then fated to suffer the same thing at the hands of his offspring. And in classic storytelling, he tried to avoid his fate by eating his children. I don't know why he ate them instead of, practicing some kind of planned parentage or self-restraint or just not consuming that. It's besides the point. Eventually eating all of these little baby gods until the last one, Zeus, was replaced by his mother, by Cronus's spouse, with a rock. Big god baby size rock, which Kronos ate, and apparently you didn't notice the difference. It's a myth. All right, just play along. So Zeus grows up in secret, trains, has his whole, chapter in building up and resistance, and overthrows his father, frees his siblings, and becomes the new king of the gods. The Kronos-Doktrin is a reference to this in that it is a paranoia of being overtaken by one's offspring. Sometimes, literally, when it comes to psychological disorders that use Kronos in the name to describe a predisposition towards one's offspring, the fear of being replaced, usurped. It is sometimes used in, and this is outside of our context today, discussions around artificial or synthetic intelligence and the fear of humanity itself being usurped or replaced. I know, it's really interesting, not what we're here to talk about today. You're going to have to take another class on that, but it's good shit. It's good shit. In this context, in this socio-political context, in this geopolitical context, what it manifests as is an intentional disruption, destabilization, underminement of any political regime in satellite states, colonial projects, nation-building projects that build up to a sufficient level that they might present a threat, even a regional threat to the fatherland's or motherland's authority or perception of authority or ability to project power. The moment where a polity is able to exert enough power over its own space, over its own subsector or sector, it becomes enough of a threat that it's either brought into line, or as soon as it's seen as starting to step out of line, suffers unforeseen setbacks, accidents, industrial failures, climatic problems, supply chain issues, etc., etc. Convenient incidents of systematic failure and decline, which sometimes are alleviated when spontaneously a regime happens to change to one more loyal to the German sphere or to the Axis properly, but more often goes into permanent decline. Now, why this policy? It's paranoia, yes, absolutely. Is that indicative of fascism in some sense? Absolutely. And, it's very easy for us to say, I'm no fascist, and I certainly hope there's not any of you with fascist sympathies in this class. If so, you know my office hours. More than happy to give a consultation and talk through what the appeal is, why you're feeling that way. It is a seductive ideology. It has not lasted these many long centuries because it is inert, and it would be hubris on our part to look at the failures of these colonial nation-building projects as failures of an ideology rather than the designs of that ideology. It would certainly have been nice, as had been projected in the early 20th century, that fascism would not last the century, but I'm afraid that has not been the case. What Dark Age lesson created this policy, led to this outlook? Well, we only need to look at the Mirage Expanse, right past the Tannhauser Gate, in the Mid-Chimorge Commonwealth, as we know them today. Mid-Chimorge, at that time, famously, in this brief moment of time since the evacuation of Earth and the reestablishment of communications, about 16, 17 years later, in this brief little opportunity for the birth of new ideologies, new nations, new movements, new political powers and policies, and truly a transformative period across the Orion Arm, but particularly in this region, in this moment, with this unlikely Mid-Chimorge miracle, wherein colonies and states subject to the Common Interstellar and the Axis rebelled, cooperated, and unified under a new federative banner. And these aren't people from a single national background, right? These are people of Polish descent, Ukrainian descent, Belarusian descent, Czech descent, East Slavic, West Slavic, South Slavic, Baltic even descent. Not unprecedented, this cooperation, but truly noteworthy. And again, miraculous. This miracle was met by a major shift in policy in the Communist Interstellar and in the Axis. And we will talk later about the divergent way in which the Communist Interstellar reacted. Very much not, as we're describing today, very much not in line with the Kronos-Doktrin. But the Axis, we need look no further than the project in the Elysian Fields and the Axis interventions in our own Orion Treaty Organization, in the OTO's own nation-building projects in bordering space. The Axis powers, at first covertly and then increasingly overtly and obtusely and blatantly undermine regional authorities, replacing them when possible, and when not possible, eliminating them entirely, cutting them off from access to trade, to fair supplies, price gouging, stacking on unreasonable amounts of tariffs and import taxes and blockades and all kinds of soft and increasingly hard power as necessary to rein in a regime, and even of the loyal states only allowed a certain degree of latitude, only allowed a certain amount of leash, just enough rope to hang themselves with, as the saying goes. Now, what can we learn from this? What can we learn? Now, I don't expect a long paper on this, but I would like to have, let's say, 2 pages. 2 pages, essays, handwritten, again. Handwritten, as is the case with all papers in this class. Yeah, boo hiss. I know, I don't like reading your sadly neglected handwriting even more than you like using it, but it's a lot harder to fake and a lot harder to cheat, and this is purely an opinion piece based on the assigned reading, based on the class's prior assigned readings, and hey, if you have other citations you'd like to drag in, knock yourself out, it would be appreciated. Describe for me, or opine for me, I suppose, how the Kronos-Doktrin succeeds in accomplishing strategic goals and interests in a geopolitical sense for the Axis as a whole, but specifically the German Reich, and describe, secondarily, what opportunities and flaws consistent in this policy model, what opportunities present themselves for those fighting fascism. All right? Yeah, it's an oddly hopeful piece this week. I'm not asking you to contemplate the horrors of systems cut off from all communication for a decade and a half, succumbing to cannibalism and supply shortages or virulent disease, or, you know, the dozens and dozens of terrible ways that early colonization went wrong. Nope. We are looking at a way that miraculously it went right up in the Reich Expanse. The way that the Axis has since seemingly shot itself in the foot, overreacting to prevent a similar incident, and what opportunities that presents us in the future. Sound good? All right. Well, I will see you all tomorrow. Again, try to get that reading done this week. Let's say papers due by Friday? Yeah? I don't really want to do a lot of reading over the weekend. Reading on the boat's kind of nice, though. Let's say Thursday. Yeah, 2-page paper. You can knock that overnight. Don't give me that look. All right. Again, office hours are on the syllabus. If you need anything, you know where to get me. Have a great day, everyone, and I will see you tomorrow.